All right, hockey fans. So, we finally found out last night Montreal versus Washington. So now we anxiously await the release of the playoff schedule. I checked just before I started recording. Nothing yet, except for we know that there's the two Western Conference games on Saturday, which that will be interesting to see if they have both Atlantic matchups on Sunday, but maybe there's more games on Saturday coming. They only have the evening games. They don't have any matinee yet on Saturday, so maybe one of the Eastern Conference teams will slide into one of those slots. So, for purposes of this video, I'm just going to give some short thoughts and a prediction for each of the other two Eastern Conference playoffs series. Can't talk. Yesterday I did Panthers and Lightning and Toronto and Ottawa in separate videos. For purposes today, I'm just going to do the other two from the Metro in this video. Now, full disclosure, both series, I'm still on the fence. At the start of the video, I'm still on the fence of who I'm picking, so we'll get there together. Now, first I'm going to go over is Carolina versus New Jersey. Both of these teams come with their own ready, set narrative. For Carolina, it's, they really can't score. They don't have the offense. And for New Jersey, it's injuries. And when I looked at their rosters and I looked at the stats a little bit more, Carolina's actually had a pretty good year in terms of goal scoring. Their thing, obviously, is shot production. They're going to just take shots from everywhere that they can and beat you. With New Jersey, it's a little bit different, obviously, without Hughes. So it's hard to look at their stats and wonder if guys are going to be able to fill in the slots. Because when you are missing a guy, right, the stats for the guys that were on his line might also dip as well. So the thing for me, the key here, a couple of things. New Jersey did have the one playoff run a couple of years ago. They hung on this year, even though they didn't really play all that well towards the end of the season after Hughes was out. And then, of course, Carolina is just like repeats itself. I think it's the law at this point that Carolina make the playoffs and have, quote, expectations. Now, in terms of the goalie situation, that's where I think New Jersey might have somewhat of an edge. Now, Anderson's numbers have been better than Kochechkov, whose name I cannot say. I can say it when the camera's not rolling, and then as soon as I'm recording, I can't say it again. So Kochetkov, I got it there kind of. He's got a 2.6 and an 8.94, but Freddie's been 2.29 and a 9.07. But he's only started 21 games to Peter's 47. The assumption would be Kochetkov. I don't know. They're going to go every other game. It's a tandem. You know how those things tend to work out in the playoffs. New Jersey's got Jacob Markstrom, whose numbers have been good. He started off the season really well, and then he's .950 with a 2.5 goals against and a .900 save percentage. Now, if something were to happen to Markstrom or they wanted to go the other direction, Jake Allen's right there with a 2.66 and a .908. So, will Markstrom's experience be the difference here? Now, obviously, Freddie's got experience if Carolina chooses to go that way. Carolina's just so damn good on defense, and New Jersey's already going to have problems scoring. That's where I see the problem. The problem here, I think, is going to be who's going to give up the bad goal. Who might let their guard down just a little bit too much. I want to root for Markstrom. I want to say the Devils can keep up, but Brindamore looks pretty, he always looks pretty pissed off and motivated. But I would be really surprised if Carolina blew this series. I think they're the better team all the way around. I know they have the reputation of not being able to have goal scorers. But when you look, they don't, right? When you look, they don't have anybody that's really standing out. Jarvis has got 32. Aho's 29. Okay, Svechnikov has only got 19. And the thing with them is the depth scoring. They've got a plethora of guys over 10, right? Taylor Hall is a new addition. He's got 18. Blake was 17. Martinook 15. Robinson 14. Stankoven 14. Stahl's still kicking around with 13. Janikowski's at 12. Kokaniemi, whose name I cannot say also, has got 11 goals. So they spread the wealth around a bit. And their defense, the combination of Burns, Orlov, Slavin, let's just be honest. They've got defense. Can New Jersey's offense keep up without Hughes? I think in the end, the answer is likely to be no. Can Hischier and Meyer and Nosen make up the difference? Bratt, that's a lot of juice they lost with Hughes being out. Now, the one kicker here for New Jersey is they don't have quite. I'm looking at their defensive scoring. Hamilton with 9, Hughes was 7, the other Hughes. They don't quite have the same names. They doesn't jump out at you the same particular way. These games are going to be close. They're going to be low scoring. Markstrom is a guy that can steal you a game and lose you a game. When he's not good, he's not great. If you catch my drift. I think that if you really wanted to look at it over the term of a full series, we might see all 4 goaltenders. It could be a situation where we see all 4 goaltenders. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick Carolina. I think this one would probably go 7 games. It might only go 6, but, neither one of these teams should really be winning a cup. It's not that they're bad, but I don't think either one of them have the roster to win 4 rounds, which is what you have to do. But somebody's got to get out of the first round by default, right? They're going to announce the winner of the series no matter what happens. I think since New Jersey's going to be shorthanded there a little bit, if Carolina stays healthy and either one of their goalies can just play at what would be an expected level for them, I think Carolina takes this one. I'm going to go 7 games. I would not count on a lot of exciting hockey. A lot of playoff games are 2-1 anyway, 3-2. But see a lot of intensity from Carolina. I just don't think New Jersey is going to be ready to match, and it's a shame. They've been hurt by injuries the last couple of years. And they did manage to make the playoffs this year, and they do have a good young team that's trying to get to the next level. But when you really look at them on paper, I think Carolina's going to take that one. Now, let's get to Washington and Montreal. Now, of course, we didn't know who Washington was going to face till the very end last night. Montreal made us sweat it just a little bit. Now, obviously, Washington's got Ovechkin. And before I get into Montreal, there's 2 things with what's going on with Ovechkin this year that I think could have an effect with the Capitals. First of all, the emotional investment, the energy expenditure. Rarely, right, do you find a situation in a regular season where a team is having that massive of a celebration. They had the whole handshake line, stop the game, and it was all, I'm not complaining. It was obviously appropriate in that moment, but for the chase, right? The emotion level just kept getting raised and raised and raised and raised, especially when he almost did it against Spencer Knight in Chicago, where he would have had a hat trick and broke the record. And Knight really came on at the end of that game and stopped him from doing it. So then they had to wait for the next game. He does it. Massive, massive energy expenditure and release in the middle of the regular season. Now, I can't remember the last time a team had a moment like that. Certainly in hockey, I can't imagine the last time a team had that kind of a moment in the regular season. So are they going to be able to turn the page on that and flip on the switch to playoff hockey? That's the first question. The second question or point is that we watch how Ovi has been playing. And this is not being critical of him. He's absolutely made the adjustments to change his style with age and everything. But how many of these times have you watched the highlights of the goals? And especially it is Washington entering the zone with speed, and Ovi just kind of standing there at the line waiting. And he's just taking a few strides, getting to his spot, and waiting for the puck to get delivered to him. Now, I'm not saying he's not capable of playing defensively or anything like that, but regular season, getting set up for goals like that in the regular season is a whole different animal than trying to do that in the playoffs. Now, last year's playoffs, he did not do well. Washington was eliminated quick. Is Ovechkin going to be able to be as significant of a player in the playoffs now that he's gotten the record and now that he's kind of adjusted his style a little bit? I don't know. And, when I've watched a lot of those goals that he scored this year, you're just kind of watching it and you're like, why is nobody covering him? And I understand it's the power play and you have to choose your weapon and everything like that. But it started to get to the idea, the feeling that teams were just leaving Ovi open so that he could try to get to the record. So that's not going to happen in the playoffs. Nobody's going to, oh, well, that's Ovechkin. Just let him take his shots. For that's okay. That's not going to happen, okay? So Washington's had a great regular season. They could have won the President's Trophy, but they didn't. They're probably happy that they didn't. But are they going to be able to sustain the energy level? Is Ovechkin going to be as effective in the playoffs as he was during the regular season? And then if not, who's going to pick up the pace? Tom Wilson, Protas, Strome, McMichael, Chychrun, Pierre-Luc Dubois, all over 20 goals, or at least at 20. Chychrun's the big one. You get 20 goals from your defenseman. It's no wonder he got paid. Now, Ovechkin, 43 goals, only 29 assists, right? So it's not like he's, an assist merchant over here. Strome with the most assists there at 52, but how many of those were to Ovechkin? Ovechkin had 13 power play goals, so after that, he still only had 30 goals, 5-on-5. Shorthanded? No, he had no shorthanded, 7-game winning goals. So, and of course, then the other point I want to make, the only point I want to make about Washington is their goaltending. Logan Thompson, 2.49 and a 9.10 should something happen to him. Charlie Lindgren at 2.73 and a 8.96. Now Logan Thompson has taken the long road. He's been around a little bit trying to get to this point where he's fully in charge of a playoff team with cup aspirations. So he's got points to prove. He's played well, maybe better than well. But again, how much of Washington's success has been simply because of the raised energy level of the chase that Ovechkin was on. Then you get down to Montreal. And Montreal is just a team of like teenagers. I don't think there's anybody over the age of 15 that's left on this team except for Patrick Laine and Sam Montembeault. That might be a bit hyperbolic. Caulfield, 37, Suzuki, 30, Gallagher, and then it just plummets. Gallagher at 21, Laine at 20, and then that's it for guys over 20. They do have plenty of depth scoring of guys over 10, Newhook, Anderson, Slafowski, Evans, Dvorak. Goaltending. Now, Dobish has actually only started 15 games. His numbers are a little bit better than Montembeault at 274 and 909. Monty's numbers have been 282 and a 902. Now, I like Sam Montembeault. Panthers, he was a Panther guy for a long time. We thought here he was going to possibly be the future, and then we ended up getting the Wongo. So I like to root for the kid. He's been inconsistent over the course of his career. He's been better this year, and you've seen in some spots like last night where he's making saves that I don't think we've seen him make before. So that's a positive. On the negative side is the offense that they're going to have to go up against, especially with Ovechkin and Wilson. I've been cracking the joke for about a month now that Montreal was going to come in and beat the Capitals and eliminate the Capitals. I'm going to stick to that. I'm going to stick to that. I know it's a wild and crazy take. I'm not unaware. But every year, there's that one shock in the first round. Every year, for the most part, there's that one big surprise in the first round where people say, whoa, on paper, I didn't see that coming. Montreal has a lot of kids, right? Okay, and you add Demidov to that mix. Is the pressure going to be too much? Or is the pressure going to circle past too much and get to the point where they're already playing with house money and they're going to play loose? Now, the last couple games against Chicago and in the beginning of yesterday's game against Carolina, Montreal was pretty tight. They were holding the sticks pretty tight, overpassing a little bit, passing up shots, just couldn't quite get things moving. And then things opened up, and they did. And that might have been of a benefit to them having to play those games and, end up losing to Chicago. And it finished at 4-2 last night, but for a while that score was 1-1, and it was anybody's game. So that's about the most pressure-packed situation any of these kids have been in. Monty, I don't believe, has ever been in the playoffs before. I think I checked that earlier. So there's that, too, in terms of lack of experience. It's going to be their first time together. I don't think most people expected Montreal to make the playoffs. That was the one team in the Atlantic that is in that I didn't pick. I believe I still picked Boston to make it as a wild card, and instead it's Montreal. I did pick Ottawa at the beginning of the season. I picked Ottawa to get the 8th seed. But I did not have the Bruins missing the playoffs, and so Montreal is the team that jumped in there. I'm going to pick Montreal for the two reasons of there's always that one surprise, and I don't think Washington's going to be able to keep that intensity level up. Montreal, while they lack the experience, they've got talent. And even though they don't have the biggest names like Washington does, every year there's that one top team that kind of chokes up a little bit. And I don't think it's going to be Winnipeg this year. I think Winnipeg's going to win their series, but we'll get into that tomorrow when I do the Western Conference previews. So I completely understand if you say I'm nuts thinking Montreal can win. Obviously, if Washington plays to the best of their ability, they're going to win the series. But between the energy discrepancy that the chase is now over, and I just don't know how Washington's offense is going to look, because things are going to be different in the playoffs. They're not just going to leave Ovechkin open there at the side of the net because let him take his shots. That's not going to happen. Now, of course, Montreal is not exactly an experienced playoff team, so it could be that. Look, I could be wrong easy and early, right? Okay, the series is going to start off in Washington. Washington can win the first two games 12-2 combined score, and oops, I guess Montreal is not going to do it. But if Montreal can split those first two games in Washington, if Monty can steal a game, if Washington comes out game one and isn't quite ready because they're not really all that worried about Montreal, if they can steal game one, I think Canadiens can make it a series, and you might see Washington start to hold those sticks a little bit tight because they're the ones that are in the last chance here for Ovechkin, right? In Montreal, this is their first. They weren't even expecting to be here, right? For the most part, you would look at this roster and be like, kind of maybe a bubble team, but I don't think a lot of people expected Montembeault to have the year that he did. And that's a whole nother question, getting into Montreal's future goaltending and how long they're going to ride with Monty. He's got one more year in his contract next season, so especially if he can win a playoff round, wouldn't be surprised to see him be back. I don't know about getting extended, but Montreal is right there. This is their first chance, and for Washington, it could easily be their last chance, really, with Ovechkin around. So the disparity between those two things, I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and pick Montreal just because I play with puppets, I guess. All right, that's going to do it for this. I will have this up and out to you. Members podcast will be up this afternoon. I will see you guys live at noon. No stream tonight, and then we will have a stream tomorrow night. That's when we're going to do the bracket challenge and all of that. Once the brackets are up and available, I've already created the Flying Fluffy Hockey League. So once the brackets are up and available, I'll share that link in the community post. All right, appreciate all the support. I shall see you at noon.